Good afternoon. This is a special, actually, moment in my life. As a banker with more than 25 years experience, working for the three biggest corporations, banking corporations in Poland, there was always a fear crawling through the corridors of the regulator before the meeting, and now I have to moderate the meeting with four regulators, actually Singapore, Lithuania, Poland, and Netherlands. This is really a special event for this Congress because, we have the guests from West and East and Far East, the leaders of fintech in the world, like Singapore, the pretenders for the leadership, at least in the region, like Lithuania and Poland, and Netherlands, who is a very well-known and recognized system where, at least, few well-known unicorns are present in fintech with more than 1 billion in valuation, like IDEN. So welcome, and as we have really not very much time, so let's start with Poland. What we do in order to become a regional hub of fintech.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. At the beginning, I would like to say a few words about the initiative that has been undertaken in Poland to support the fintech growth. In January this year, Polish Financial Supervision Authority, together with the Ministries of Finance and Development, formed a special task force for financial innovation in Poland, involving other supervisors, regulators, and market participants, both regulated and startups, to develop solutions that could mitigate the legal and supervisory barriers to fintech growth. The task force has now 22 members. The activities of the task force are coordinated by Polish supervision. The final outcome of the work will be a report in which supervisory and regulatory barriers to fintech growth will be presented. Moreover, the report will also include proposals for possible actions on the side of competent authorities. The operational work of the task force are divided into 6 subgroups: systemic, AML, payments, blockchain, capital markets, insurance, crowdfunding, social lending. We are planning to issue the first draft of the report in September. What is important? We try to eliminate as many barriers as possible on an ongoing level. So we are trying to eliminate barriers to introduce them in the ongoing legislative processes. Thank you.
So then, let's ask somebody who made an effort to come from Singapore with more than 14 hours flight. Singapore is known as one of the leaders in fintech in the world. How you made it? Because this is something very, very important, as we all recognize that financial services will change rapidly in the next few years, and the regulators will play a very important role in it. So how you make it happen in Singapore?
Thanks for having me back on the stage again. First of all, I think most importantly, change the dress code. Right now we are in jeans, no more in suit, and that maybe will make your heart beat slower and get more excited talking to us. I think as a regulator, we aim to be a AAA regulator. In order to invest, you look for AAA investable assets. So as a regulator, I think we need to be a AAA regulator. We need to be aware of what's going on in the industry. We need to be agile, make changes when necessary, but in a very quick manner. And the third one is quite important. We need to automate ourselves as well. As we tell our financial institutions to be more innovative, as a regulator, as a central bank, we need to innovate and we need to automate our process. So we go through a lot of what we call designing policies by experimentation, rather than thinking about how to regulate before we even understand the issues at hand. So something that we adopt, not going into something or not designing a policy before even we know something in more detail. So what we try to do is go through experiments, through either Sandbox, through engagement with our community, through the different dialogues that we have, through even just communicate and engage the fintech community. We learn a lot, and from there, I think we can then design much better policies. So that is something that I think we have to bring ourselves to the ground and understand the ground much better.
And now I would like to ask something which is, from my practice, really important. Recently, I've been through the procedure of banking license in one of the geographies in the European Union. It took me 1 year to get the restricted license. And as far as I know, this is from the press, and that Lithuanian regulator make a promise to grant the license within 3 months. How you want to make it happen?
Dzień dobry, Krakow. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. So first of all, my name is Marius. I'm a central banker, and in Lithuania, central bank is the integrated regulator responsible for all financial market regulated issues ranging from A to Z. So we see big picture. Everyone is talking about fintech, but we have a very intrinsic reason why we, as a regulator, have a reason to care that much about that sector. We in Lithuania have a very concentrated banking community, where 3 banks, account for almost 90% of the market share, either way you slice it. And we want more competition. So we see fintech industry as a way of inducing competition in the banking industry. So how do you do that? What is fintech industry to begin with? We saw so many solutions throughout the day today. I'm sure going to see many of them tomorrow. But all of them share the same technology, very similar ideas. And the only thing that differentiates one solution from the other is user experience. That's something that one company can do and others cannot. So we as regulators also try to sell user experience. You talked about being feared about regulator. Times have changed. Now the regulator is providing a service. So that service, how do we do that? In Lithuania, we have very specific products that we are selling as a regulator. We saw that our banking industry is not competitive enough. So how do you induce fintech companies to launch in a country which is very small market, change the paradigm, increase the market share in the minds of those who are trying to enter Lithuania? First of all, we allow fintech companies to onboard customers across the world. We have remote identification, which is legally implemented starting last year. Second, many fintech companies in the payments industry, they know the pain that they have to go through to find a sponsoring bank. How to circumvent that? We, as a central bank, we are your API to settlement system. We are the only central bank in the Eurozone which allows technical connection to settlement system without intermediating bank. That's saving you time, pain, and providing a very good central bank service. We talked about licensing procedures. If you are a licensed company, electronic money, or an equivalent company in respectable regulatory jurisdiction, let's say UK, you bring us your documents, and we think that these are in order, we give you 1 week pre-approval. And if the documents are in order, we promise for a fintech company to process all the documents within 3 months. What we're doing, we're basically saving your investors' money, because sitting without a license is money lost.
Thank you. So after 25 years of banking career, I've been now in the fintech. And you know, there's a lot of noise that Sandbox is a place for fintech to play with the regulator. So, but what we really want to do is to have actually the dialogue with the regulator to ask the questions and have the clear answer. So how you do it in Netherlands?
Yeah, let me just explain a few things about our supervisory system within the Netherlands. We have a Twin Peaks model, so there's a Dutch central bank taking care of the monetary side and prudential supervision, and you have the Authority for Financial Markets, which I work for, that takes care of financial services and conduct regulation. In the Netherlands, we cooperate quite close with the Dutch Central Bank, and we established an innovation hub at the beginning of 2016 because we saw a lot of things going on, as we're just talking about this for this whole day already. I'm not going to mention that again. But we wanted to see how that will impact the way we need to supervise and still be efficient and also adequate within our supervision. If things become more digitalized, we need to understand how it actually works and how it involves the customers and so on and so on. So one of the first things I did when I became part of the team that deals with innovation and fintech within my organization is to call the Financial Conduct Authority within the UK, because they already established a dedicated team, and just ask them what was the first thing that you did, or one of the first things that really had added value. And then they said, the most important thing is to establish a good dialogue with both the new entrants to the market, the fintech companies, but also the existing players, and see what's going on, having dialogues. And because they don't know you yet, then you probably should go to certain events like these and meet the fintechs. Show that you're open to have a dialogue. So that's what we did, and we also have a publication on our website on how we want to accommodate financial innovations for the financial well-being in the Netherlands. At the same time, standing open to wanting to address certain risks, but with a common sense. And moving forward, we also investigated the added value a sandbox might have. And at the end of 2016, we established a sandbox. And our sandbox is a bit different from other sandboxes. I have to say, we can never waive any rules. We are just bound to European legislation and also bound to our own legislations. That said, a lot of the legislation or regulations are principle-based, and the most important thing is when we talk to parties that have an innovative concept is to be open to what they explain about their technology, and then see how it connects to the rules or whether there's a mismatch, and come back to the underlying principles or the fundamentals of the regulation, for instance, protecting the interest of a client, and see how they want to address our concerns and the risks that are involved. So that's the most important thing. And the most valuable thing is the hub. The sandbox in the Netherlands is there for those cases where there's some legal uncertainty, and when it's really unclear how some kind of disruptive technology has to deal with the legislation, and that's where we try to test it and look more closely on what's happening in the developments. And after a certain amount of time, we will give the companies an idea of what our thoughts are and what the prospects for the company are.
Thank you. Just now, this is maybe unusual, but I don't treat, please, this as a provocative. The question is, to the end of the discussion, how you see the future. in respect to who wins, the fintech, startups, or the banks. But taking this, please, in the perspective that this is not that the fintechs will take over the banks, but having in mind what recently the CEO of Citibank said, that half of the banks will disappear in the next 10 years. So which could mean there will be a wave of consolidation and they're all creating oligopoly, but fintech is all about using technology for the better of the customers, and how you see the future.
Well, I think the customer will win, and that's quite obvious. It's not about whether the fintech or the banks. What we see a lot happening is the fintech and the bank collaborating together, working together to create better products, better services for the consumer. So ultimately, it is the consumer that will win. And as a regulator, I think we win in the sense that using better technology, they can then better manage their risks, either through RegTech or through better technology managing risk within. So that is something that will create a more stable financial system as well. So I think it is not a win or lose situation, but it is how the whole ecosystem will eventually transform. People will move from one end to the other, from banks to startups, just like what you did. And that will eventually create a better financial ecosystem. Yeah.
I think we are experiencing the usual creative destruction happening in action. The usual business model that was there in place for 100 years, where you are operating either in a silo environment or you have an exclusive right to process some transactions while others can't. That is being eliminated through regulatory changes or via enabling new technology. And we all will be changed by that. We as customers, with the way we do business, and that's creating not only good things, there are those who are not capable of using new technology. There are new risks. And we as regulators will also have to change. We have to understand those new business models. We need to invest in that and to make sure that once we are learning, we don't take the view that if I don't understand it, I don't allow it. So relating to the previous discussion, Sandbox is not only a regime in which the company is testing it, it's also a learning experience for the regulator.
When analyzing the barriers to fintech growth, we can see that the biggest problems for innovators are lack of legal certainty. So Polish supervision intends to create innovation hub that would be a platform for sharing information between supervisors and market participants. Under innovation hub, fintech companies would be provided with information about regulatory requirements or licensing proceedings. Moreover, Polish supervision intends to create a special website, also in English, providing information about innovative services with the supervisor opinions, recommendations, and frequently asked questions and answers. So I think that effective dialogue is very important to fintech growth.
Just to come back to your question whether banks will survive for the next decade, unfortunately I haven't got my crystal ball with me, so I am not able to provide an answer. But I think what is clear and what became also clear today is that new kind of technical solutions offer great opportunities also for new entrants, and that's a good way of competing, and it also is beneficial for the customer. Not always, but the customer can benefit. So there are great opportunities, and that's what I want to embrace. And things are still open for the different players, so we'll see within the coming years.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I see on the screen that we are end of time. I regret it very much, simply because we have this distinguished panel, which we could, really continue for another 20 minutes. Thank you very much for coming along the way from different parts of the world, and congratulate you to what you have done, and wish Poland be next Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you.